What's up, you guys? It's time. It's time. We're about to dive into chapter 3 of The Novelist and the Lake House. So far, Brady just seems really frustrated. Not really frustrated, well, yeah, frustrated, but more so just resentful that he's done all this hard work with all these other ones and that nobody seems to care. Even his publicist, he's like, yeah, that's cool. Back to this Lake House series. So, but he said that he wants to finish his other book, the steamy book that we got Blanche Devereaux to help with first, and that he must have a female companion of some sort when he does the other one. But it's kind of hard to force a relationship for the sake of writing a book, so we will see. All right, here we go. Chapter 3. A few days later that week, Brady sat at his table signing books for fans who stood in line waiting to be next to be greeted and have their books signed inside a local bookstore not far from where Brady lives. It's a bookstore he visits quite often. Sometimes he buys coffee, sits with his laptop, and works on his novels. Brady sat at the table signing books, greeting and shaking hands with his fans. Almost everyone approaching him next seems to bring up a fourth book involving the book series, The Novelist and the Lake House. It was starting to annoy Brady, but he kept reminding himself that they were fans and that they were the reason he was successful. While signing one of the books, he catches someone in the bookstore with his peripheral vision just off his left side. A stunning beauty that nearly sucked the wind out of his lungs. He gasped as he watched this lady near a bookshelf checking out a variety of books. Could this be so? He thought to himself. He thought it was like something out of a novel, love at first sight. But of course, Brady never believed in that. He is a firm believer that first comes lust, followed later by love. He continued to sign books and shake hands while speaking with the fans standing and patiently waiting in line to see him, but he could not help but shift his focus back to that stunning beauty by the bookshelf to the left of him. His heart was racing in his chest. He was becoming a slight bit aroused in his pants at the sight of her. Okay, Brady, keep it together for the fans. Keep it together. Otherwise, the fans are going to be like, see. He even had to move while sitting to shift himself over just a tad. While going back to what he was there to do, he could not help himself but from glancing back over. This time, he caught a glance before she quickly shifted her attention back to the books she was looking through. He knew right away she was checking him out, too. He glances back over and sees that beautiful curly red hair dripping over her shoulders and down the front of her shirt to her chest and back. He could see by the size of her waist and hips that she was definitely a medium size, possibly a long 30 to 31 in her waist, maybe more. She wore these tight blue jeans that showed off her hips and nice sized ass she was supporting it. It wasn't thick, but not small either. It was just right, he thought. She wore a pink shirt with designs all over it. Again, he could see her green eyes fall back in his direction before she quickly turned them away, trying not to be spotted, and placed her eyes back onto the books on the shelf. He grins when he sees her quickly looking away as though she thinks he didn't see her. Unless possibly this is her way of getting his attention. He goes back to what he is doing with his fans, but keeps a watchful eye out for her, hoping she would not leave before getting the chance to introduce himself. Later, after ending his book signing with the fans, Brady lost track of where that stunning lady went. He searched the bookstore casually so as to not look like a stalker or seem desperate to meet her. Deep inside, he felt desperate to meet her. Someone looking as fine as her checking him out too? He just had to meet her face to face. When it was starting to seem as though been she may have long been gone and was about to give up on his pursuit, he heard this voice clearing her throat behind him before asking him with a soft voice if he were looking for something. He gulped. He just knew in his heart, racing hundreds of miles per second, that it was her. It had to be her. He smiles and turns around to face her, excited to finally meet this beauty who has had him choked up since his eyes fell upon her. But to his disappointment, it was not her. It was the lady that worked there. She was a beautiful woman too, but she was married with 3 children. He had known her for years. For some reason, though, he didn't recognize her voice, due to his overwhelming commitment to find that redhead. It was consuming him, and it was bizarre, he thought. He never looked at someone who made him feel like a cat in heat. He could not remember the last time his eyes fell on someone who made him rise without touching it. No, just walking around, clearing my mind for new thoughts on another book, he answered, not even daring to tell her he was looking for this red-headed goddess who got a rise out of him without even trying. Nice. I look forward to reading another book, she replied. Thanks, Mandy, he said, before turning around and walking away in defeat. He could not find that goddess, a woman he desperately wanted to meet. He leaves the store, walking through the parking lot and towards his vehicle. A voice calls out his name while he is preparing to open the driver's side door. Thinking it was a fan wanting to break words with him a moment before he left, he greeted this fan. Instead of his eyes falling upon a fan who wanted to share quick words with him or share their likes on his novel or whatnot, it was that woman he had laid eyes on in the bookstore. He was at a loss for words. She had surely taken him by surprise. He searched for her, thinking he'd never lay eyes on her again. Yet she stood in the flesh right before his presence. Before he could finally speak, he watched that smile on her face that lit up his soul. The smell that came off her made him want to lick her from her head down to her feet. The posture in which she was standing, the shape of her hips, and the outline of her breast through her shirt. He just wanted to tear it off right there, then and there, and throw her onto the hood of the nearest car. Ooh, with his teeth. Not have at her. Ooh. Hey, was the only word he could speak. He felt like a yet shy teenager in high school being approached by the hot, sexy cheerleader that every other guy would. She smiled, making him want to stick his tongue into her. Sir! What is. Sir! He could imagine her hot breath against his neck while he. You haven't even. Sir! At least have a conversation with her. You wow. So you're that author, Brady Mills, correct? She asked. Yes, ma'am, I am, he answered. She sticks out her left hand to shake hands with him, and he reaches out and shakes her hand with his left hand. When his hand touched hers, he could imagine them in the sand on the beach, her arms stretched out over her head while she lay down. And with him, at the same time, they kissed passionately while the sun was setting below the horizon, turning to nightfall. The cool breeze passed through as the day's heat faded with the light from the sun. I'm Emily Jules. It's nice to meet you, Brady. she said with a beautiful smile. He felt such a welcoming feeling she gave off in such a short moment between them. She turns around to get into her car, which is coincidentally parked next to his. Is she a stalker? Maybe she's a stalker. He was getting this feeling as though this could be a sign that she may be the one he could fall madly in love with. Wait, he called out, stopping her from getting into her car. She turned with that wonderful smile and was making his heart beat faster. Do you live around here? He asked. Just recently moved here a month ago, she replied. Well, I've lived here for years. Would you like me to show you around the city sometimes? Sometime? Maybe go out and get a bite to eat? Say like now? He asked, sounding a bit persistent, but not in a pushy way, but just in a way that she knew he was eager to learn more about her. She smiles at him and shakes her head. Yeah, I'd like that. What do you have in mind? She asked. They sat inside a popular five-star restaurant at a table with flowers and lit candles in the city. They sat across from one another, chatting and getting to know each other while discussing their life growing up, their jobs and such. So how long have you been an author? She asked, sipping her wine. 10, 11 years, maybe 12, he answers with his eyes fixed all over Emily. The lust was eating away at him. He wanted her badly and was fighting to resist wanting to sleep with her so quickly, feeling as though there may be a connection between them. Have you read any of my books? He asked. No, I don't quite read like I used to. I want to get back to reading someday, she answered with her eyes fixed on Brady. He did not know that she, too, sat there with lust in her eyes at what she was checking out across the table from her. So how long have you been an artist? He asked. About a year after college. I was in New York City then, but I came here to South Beach while discovering an affordable building for my art studio. It was cheaper and bigger than I used in New York, she replied. So you are not involved with anyone, correct? He asked, knowing she couldn't be unless she had a man waiting in New York. She smiled before she answered. Nope. You? He smiled, shaking his head. Nope, just me and my writing. The two of them continued to eat and talk, discussing much between them while getting to know each other very well, before the question on Brady's brain the whole time finally popped out. Are you sure you don't know me? You were glancing at me today in the bookstore and waiting for me parked by my car. She smiled, taking another bite of food. After she swallowed, she answered, No, I did not know who you were. Of course, I realized you were an author. I was glancing at you because you're hot. And being parked by your car was just a coincidental accident. He began blushing. Ooh, not you blushing, sir. Believing her without thinking twice, not wanting to spoil this chemistry that the two of them were having. Yet he still could not shake the feeling he was hallucinating or daydreaming like he often does. She could see that he was in deep thought. She knew something was on his mind. What's on your mind? She asked. He shook his head in an attempt to shake off answering the question, but she insisted on knowing what he was thinking. So he finally gave in and answered her. I feel like this could be another daydream. I never get so lucky to sit with such an amazing, beautiful woman like yourself. She smiles and leans across the table a bit closer towards Brady. Maybe we are both in a dream, and these people surrounding us are not real. I can see your fantasy just as I see mine. So how about we cut through the bullshit and get to what it is we both want? She don't waste no time, she whispered. He was stunned, completely in shock hearing what she had just said, before he witnessed Emily pushing everything off the table, the dishes crashing on the floor. What? Everyone inside the restaurant heard the commotion and watched as Emily, in a wild, uncontrollable fashion, climbed onto the table. He's gotta be daydreaming here. Hold on, because there's no way that she's that unhinged. Let's see. Practically pulling Brady from his seat. She practically dragged him onto the table, begging him to take her now, and Brady could see everyone grow quiet from their conversations, shocked at what they were all witnessing. Emily rips off her shirt while Emily rips the shirt off Brady, and like a wild beast, her nails run across his chest. Y'all about to get kicked out, sending somewhat deep scratch markings across his chest and down his stomach. Ooh, me here on the table, ooh, she begged, just before locking her lips on his, running her tongue deep into his mouth while wrapping her legs around his waist and her arms wrapped around his neck. He's gotta be daydreaming, got to be. Several of the servers working there walked over to ask them to leave. Okay. Brady could not believe what was happening. This was not what he had in mind, but he wasn't fighting this either. She pulls her lips away from Brady, stares into his eyes, and begs him to now. A few other employees head over, demanding them to leave before calling the police. However, they ignore them, removing their clothes while still on top of the table. Y'all about to get kicked out. What is going on? He's imagining this. This is his writer's imagination. Okay. Shortly after, Brady could hear Emily's voice softly calling out his name, and after snapping out of his daydream he was in, I told y'all, he realized nothing like that happened at all. Emily was still in her seat, dressed, and no employees were asking them to leave, and the guests weren't looking on. Are you okay? She asked. He looks at her as though nothing happened. Yeah, why you ask? He said casually. She gives off a quick chuckle. Are you having fantasies over there about me? She asked. Brady quickly clears his throat and sips his wine, trying to avoid her question while all she can do is fight from wanting to laugh. It's okay. I fantasize about you. I fantasized too, she said with a grin. I guess it's the writer in me, he responded. They smile and take more bites from their food before another question arises. Have you ever been married? She asked, noticing no ring on his finger and no ring hanging from a necklace. No, never been married. I was close a time or two, but it never went through. I was once. He passed away, she said. I'm sorry to hear that, Brady replied. That's okay. It was 3 years ago. He was battling with heart disease, and one day his heart just stopped. He watched her reaction to what she was saying very carefully, almost as if he were studying her, perhaps learning her. What if she is not who she says she is? What if she was lying or something? What if she was lying or something like that? He kept his eyes on her, and he could see pure, genuine emotion about the topic within her eyes, her motion. He could see she was telling the truth by sipping her wine. The more he watched her chat with him about her life, the more he could envision a future with her. Of course, it was too soon to know anything, but if things were true to his feelings, he thought there could be a future between them. Later after dinner, he drops her off by her car, where she left it parked in the parking lot of the bookstore they both met at a few hours ago. He stands with her beside her car. I had a good time tonight. Thanks, she said. Me too. I would love to do this again, he replied. I would like that, she said. He stood there momentarily, staring into her beautiful green eyes and seeing how her curly red hair hung past her shoulders, her posture, the smile she gave, and the smell emitting from her gorgeous body. It was a fight of temptation to want her right then. She looked like something created from one of the romance novels he kept thinking over and over all night. The way things were going reminded him of a romance, but deep down, he wanted it to be more of a dark fantasy, where they both rip their clothes off and have at each other. He finally decides to move in and kiss her gently on the lips, giving her the kind of kiss that says he wants her but will wait, a kiss that says he's coming back. When he pulls away, she looks up and she looks him up and down with much lust in her eyes before she reaches over and pulls him tight against her while locking her lips against his. They kiss with passion for a moment before he pulls gently away from her. We have to do this again soon, he insisted. They both smiled and she agreed before getting into her car and starting the engine. She looked at him and told him to call her. She had given him her number earlier at the restaurant. He watches while she drives away. Before returning to his car, he stands there momentarily with many different things running through his mind. He begins to realize that if he were to write the 4th book of the series, he would love to have her there with him, knowing she could very well be the one and that it could be the true ending to his story. All right. Whew, okay. So here's what I feel like. I feel like, so the thing is, the paranoid part of me is like, it can't just be a coincidence that she just happened to be parked next to him. And she had left the library or the bookstore well before he did, because he had searched that whole bookstore for her and didn't find her. So I'm wondering, was she just standing out there waiting for him the whole time? Because she wasn't in the bookstore. He searched the whole bookstore and didn't see it. So I'm wondering but how would she have known that that was his car unless she was stalking him? Or you know what, maybe it's just a coincidence. She saw him, she liked him, she left, and she just like, I'm gonna sit in my car until he comes out, and then boom, boom, boom. I don't know. All right, so what do y'all think so far? Do y'all think that she's gonna be the one do you think that because mind you, she just met him today, but he needs to go all the way to Tennessee to his lake house. Do you think that she is willing to go with this man that she just met all the way to Tennessee to live with while he writes this book? I mean, they did go on a date the same day that they met, but it was the same day. So I don't know. But I can't wait to dive into chapter 4. Tell me what y'all think. But it did prove what I thought. It did prove that he was frustrated at everybody loving his old books. And this is really the first time that we've seen him like happy this whole book. Because he's been very like frustrated and resentful, with this whole writing process. Even when he was writing about the other couple, like, his black hair, the water beads down his chest. It felt like he was angry and just kind of going through the motions. But, hey. All right, so tell me what y'all think. Do all the things y'all know I'm about to say. And I will see y'all next time. Peace.